Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day with us on this Wednesday, the 20th of July, 2022. I am astronumerologist, and you have tuned in to Live with Lloyd. How are you, everyone? As you see on the screen, I have my beautiful guest that we have been knowing for decades, literally in every way, shape, form, or fashion. Her name is Khalea Washington. She's very dynamic. She is one of the most in-depth and most expert astrologers I know for this 20th and 21st century. So anyway, let me do this. Let me do this before I bring it on. Hi, everybody. It's hot. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know where you are, but it's hot in my neck of the woods here in New York City. I mean, you can't go nowhere without sweating. And I guess it's I even talked to somebody that came back from France, this brother, and he was talking about how hot it has been there. They said it was the hottest they've experienced there while he was visiting. But in the meantime, before I get to my guest, let me do the cosmic forecast for the Live with Lloyd. So there we go. Live with Lloyd, where the joy of numerology is the joy of learning and enlightenment. Please like, share, and subscribe. And for those of you who like and share and subscribe, and those that have sent, they call them Cash App, PayPal, whatever it is, that you've been super chats, whatever chats, I really appreciate that. I'm still getting the hang of the logistics of how to work these things, but I'll be there. Okay. But today is Wednesday, July the 20th of 2022. All those twos today. And the sun is still in Cancer. This time next week, though, we will be in Leo. The moon is in Taurus. It's a 4 universal day, a 7 universal week, 6 universal day. And for those that are under Taurus, Libra, and Cancer, this is a good day for them. And honestly, every time I have somebody on, it seems to match. So for those that are born on the 2nd, the 6th, the 11th, the 15th, the 20th, which is my guest's birthday, the 24th and the 29th of the month, this is it. But please like, share, and subscribe. Also leave your comments. I'm as I said, I'm getting the hang of this. You would think after a year I should have been had this, but hey, I'm focused on some other things. But at any rate, I am now about to bring on my very, very wonderful guest. Hold on, let me see. Let me get rid of this a second, and she will be joining us. Okay, good. Miss Khalea Washington, how we doing there, young lady?
Great, and it's always great to be with you. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, your voice sounds good. It's sounding real good coming over the screen. It's interesting between you and I, we know behind the scenes, we've always had a problem with connected just before we go on the show, but I think we finally resolved it once and for all. So when you're back again, it won't be. The last time I had you on, and for years you wore the title solar biologist, okay? Although you are probably one of the most preeminent astrologers, but you are known as solar biologist. Now things have changed as we grow in all different ways, and now you are an astro empowerment specialist. Why the change? How did the change of name come about?
Learning and growth are the two key words. I am a large proponent of the principles of the Nguzo Saba, the right to name ourselves and define ourselves. And I had been gifted the name of a solar biologist many years ago when I tried to modify and say, oh, I'm just an astrologer. And I was told, oh, no, no, I've heard you, I've seen your work. You're much more than that. You're a solar biologist because you don't just deal with people, you deal with the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and how everything is interrelated. And I had to step back and say, well, if that person thinks that much of your work, why can't you claim it? Well, again, it happened this year. I was about to be a guest on WBLS. And I was going to be a guest of someone like yourself who had known me almost 40 years. And we've done readings together. And he
Mm-hmm.
me as an astro empowerment specialist. And I thought of all the studying I've done, all the teaching I've done, all the growth and all the evolving that I've done with regards to metaphysics. And I said, yep, that's what I am now. And that's what I'm going to be going forward because it better identifies the work that I do.
Okay, so now that you got this title, Astro Empowerment Specialist, to the layperson, and now those are a reflection of your growth. How would you explain it to now with those that are viewing? For
Okay,
example,
when I started studying astrology and being on your show and other shows, um, I was really surprised at the response to me and humbled and appreciative of the trust and the openness that people had and the confidence that they had. And as
mm-hmm,
a result of that, it made me really dig within the reservoirs of myself because these are my people.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes a person might come to you for a reading about one thing, but as you're looking at that person's chart and you're reading their energy, you can find out that there are other things going on. I'm a very, very intuitive and sensitive person. So if I read you, not only do I know what's going on, but I also know that even with the information that I'm giving you, what you're probably going to respond to and where there might be problems that you still might allow yourself to be mired in. And you just have to play that hand out, you know? And
mm-hmm,
so what I would try to do, and what I continue to do, is impart avenues that would make those difficult areas of your life or the things that you might find difficult to face or contend with, I would match it to where your planets were, what you were more likely to respond to if you were a mutable person, or which means it more adaptable, or if you were a
mm-hmm,
fixed person. You know, I would try to look at what resources are available that would make it easier for you to understand or embrace or get it or the light bulb go on, which is a form of empowerment. It never made me happy and never will to do a reading on someone, even though I can't fix everything in your life and I can't change everything in your life. But if I can be a blessing in terms of not only did you get the reading and the forecast so you know what time it is, but you
mm-hmm.
also say, you know what? That was a good suggestion that she gave me based on my personality or my temperament, or uh, times that might be easier for certain changes to occur. To have that person get back to me and tell me that it did happen that way, or that they followed up, or that they wanted to follow up, that they remembered but that they didn't do it, but as a result of the roadblocks. Can we go over again what books you said might help, what courses you said might help, what spiritual practices might help? And so that's a form of empowerment. Because
Now, let me ask you this though. With this change of your title, does that mean you change the way you read now? Does that make you a different type of reader? Does that make sense?
I haven't really changed the way I read. What happens is my title better suits the work that I do, and the
Uh-huh.
and the way that I've evolved in trying to do it a certain way that would be of mass benefit. In terms of my readings, I do better with intimate one-on-one. It's not that I can't do short, abbreviated readings, but I take a lot in because, and if you don't mind me doing this sidebar, just to explain how certain facets of astrology work that people might not be aware of. We're,
Sure.
we're both born under the sign of Aquarius. So
Right.
time when a person wants a reading, they want to do it based on their birth date and the information that they have about that particular sign. But just like we grow and evolve from being a baby that has to be carried around to growing up and being able to walk and being able to talk and think for ourselves, the planets in our chart continue to move along. We don't stop being Aquarius, but after our first 31 years, we start to pick up the energy of the next sign, and that
Mm-hmm.
planetary lineup changes. So I
Mm-hmm.
started at a 0 degree 4 minute Aquarian when I was born, but I'm more Piscean like energy now. And with that Piscean energy, it heightens my intuitive facilities as well. Having taken courses in polarity, I've learned how to read voices, so I can just tell how you sound almost, what's going on.
Interesting.
So if you put the intuition and the polarity and the astrology and the numerology that you've taught me, you know, it's an evolving process.
Question: if you have now evolved over to the Piscean side, does that mean I, as an Aquarian, and other Aquarians
I,
now are in the Pisces energy? Although this is the age of Aquarius, which is where I want to be.
I
No.
want to be, you know what I mean? But let's see. You're either Aries or early Taurus now. Can you believe that?
Oh man. I mean,
And you
nothing wrong. Nothing
got the
wrong. Don't get me
favorite,
wrong.
favorite part, right? Because I remember I was reading my best friend who was, and there were just certain little things about her personality. We've been friends for 40 years, you know. I noticed she really was more stubborn and more rigid and, stuck in what you should let me do your progress chart. So I sat down and I did her progress chart, and she had gone from Aries Pisces energy to Taurus Gemini energy. And she said, I don't want to be a Taurus. I don't want to be a Gemini. And
Yeah, I understand.
I, it's not, but look at it this way. You know how we stand back and we watch our elders, you know, and how our parents, they were a certain way when they were young, but
Hmm. Hmm.
reach their senior years and they mature, they feel like, well, I already know. I don't have to change. And they tend to get stuck in their righteousness of their views. And you can
Hmm.
always almost say to yourself, you know what? Well, you know how so and so is at that age. They're not going to change. They've always been that way. They're just more of it. Well, that's kind of what happens with the planetary movement. You know what I mean? You're just deeper into a certain decant that would be better explained if you looked at a person's progress chart. Now, to do a progress chart, what you do is you put the year, month, and day in, and then you match it to today's date, and then you'll
It's like
get
bringing everything forward.
brings everything forward, and you get a more accurate reading and interpretation of what's going on in that person's life right now.
So you're telling me that all the people that's walking around, all these signs, especially 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and stuff like that, those who think they're Aries, they've shifted. Those who think they're a Cancer, they've shifted. Is that what you're saying?
Just like in real life. My favorite thing is listening to women say, I got to lose weight so I can get the body I had in high school. Okay. But that was your high school body for your age and your size and your weight. So, yes, maybe you can drop 40, 50 pounds, but it's not going to look the same and it's not going to feel the same. The same
Uh-huh.
with us based on our life experiences, our mindset, what we learn, who we interact with. These are things that are continuing to shape us. And the quirky thing is, if you look at a person's progressions, it usually matches that energy up. So when I do readings, I give the person the option. Do you want your natal chart, who is going to reflect who you were, what you came to the planet to do, what some of your challenges might be, some of which you've already overcome, some are
Hmm.
still coming, or do you want to fine tune who we are today? how we're looking, how we're feeling, what we want, and what we want to do.
Got it. All right. Good. Good.
Now,
Good.
let me just say this. Astrology, as you know, is infinite and much more complicated than a lot of other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So other astrologers know this as well. But sometimes to keep from confusing someone, they just do a natal chart. And when they do a natal chart, meaning where the planets were at the time, there's when they'll go, wow, they were 100% on it. They told me, when I got married, how many, because that roadmap is there. It's like going to a doctor and having a doctor diagnose um, you when you just get here
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that are happening now based on your life experience, your diet, and the things you're predisposed to.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense, which is why everybody should come with all the exact information as much as possible so they can get the best possible analysis or reading from a professional astrologer like yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. So when I do readings, like while we're on, they're just pinpointing certain key things. I sit down to the one-on-one because it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more research. That's when we really get into the meat and potatoes of who you are now, what's going on with you right now, what areas of your life do you want to focus, and how can we get the best possible results for where you are.
So now, a moment ago, you mentioned retrogrades, and I had said earlier in the year that this summer would be a crazy summer, a hot summer, not because of the temperatures, which is extremely hot, but it appears because they're going to be several planets retrograde at the same time. Can
Yeah.
you talk about those?
Yes. I like to, in an effort to try to simplify things for people to be able to grasp it more easily, is instead of looking, people tend to think at retrogrades as times of delusion, uh, times of delays, times of confusion, times when you're trying to move forward and full of glitches. But regardless of what planet retrogrades, it means that whatever that planet represents and governs, those issues come back up. Give you a perfect example. When January 6th occurred, the insurrection, well, that was so outrageous. I'm sure everyone felt that that should have immediately been addressed and something should have been done sooner, you know, and it should have been swift. But now we're in the middle of the retrogrades, and all of these issues are coming back up for review, how it happened, why it happened, all the behind the scenes work, and there are more accurate and honest consequences as a result, because the retrogrades are forcing these things to be reviewed and to be looked at with all the information and all the facts. That's what a retrograde does. So while we're having these retrogrades, no, it's not the best time to run out and initiate new things, but this is a time to get your house in order, to purge, to let go, to look around your life and to see what's working for you and what's not. And also, retrogrades force you to look at, let's say, if you're feeling stifled and stymied and just want to move ahead, but we're in a retrograde cycle. The retrograde will make you, force you to look at, yeah, you want to move ahead, but are you ready? Have you done your homework? What area of your life needs to be cleaned up? What area of your life needs to be improved? What do you need to let go of? A retrograde makes you take inventory. It's not a free flow, so that as you proceed and attempt to move forward, you're clearer, you're more honest, you're more realistic, Now it might feel like, oh man, it was terrible. But, we all have homework to do. Like, take voting, for example. Now, the below 50 generation is really frustrated with the entire system of politics. They think the Democrats are no good. They think the Republicans are no good. And they really want a new system, an independent party. And a lot of them, because of that, did not vote in 2016. Okay. But we threw away and compromised ourselves and gave away our power. So these retrogrades, with them trying to change laws, with them trying to take abortion rights away, with us not being involved with climate change when the world is about to burn up, it's to drive home the fact that we need to go back to the old. And instead of getting out in the street and protesting, to reclaim your power in the power of the vote, because we're going to have to make this change incrementally. It won't be because masses of us got in the street, because we're seeing more and more mass protests. But while we're having the mass protests, fewer young people are voting. You understand what I'm saying? And while we're not voting, they're going behind our backs and they're changing laws. So people need to vote more. They need to share and teach each other how to vote. They need to be voting for everything, not just presidential, but city council. And, this is an era of expediency. See, so this younger generation wants fast and abrupt change. It's like, why I gotta go, vote for city council and blah, blah. But it's our country and it's our world and it's our causes and our jobs and our livelihoods that we are concerned with. We need to go back and do the routine, mundane work that our forefathers and our ancestors fought and died for, so that we can be a part of the change that we want. And so the retrogrades have come up once again for all of those who did not vote or who have biased opinions, who ran out and protested, and still not seeing changes and seeing more catastrophic changes in the negative than we would have ever thought in 2022, because the retrograde means to go back to. So take advantage of that cycle and do our homework and get on board so that big changes occur.
So in other words, you're saying that we always have to be, it is in our best interest to be more politically engaged than prior. I was kind of laughing because this person sounds like me, Khalea. Secrets of Life says, I'm always going to be a Leo IDC, which means I guess I don't care. She sounds like me. I mean, I know I've progressed. I'm an Aries, Taurus, but I guess that's it. So what do you say to a person that's set in their ways like this too? Okay, where did we go? Where did she go? Okay. So how do you respond to that, Khalea? I don't hear you. Ho, 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 ho. You got to unmute your mic. Khalea, you got to unmute. I don't hear you. You got to deal with your mic. Your mic is not connected. That's what it says on my end. Okay, this is very, very interesting. Must be some of those retrogrades. In fact, I think there are about 4 or 5 planets that are retrograde right this instance too. Why can't I hear her? And I'm trying on. There we go. Okay, clear.
Yeah. Did she? Okay. I said about her. Did you hear what I said to the Leo?
No, because your mic was on Leo at the I mean on mute at the same time, not on Leo. What did you say there,
I was
please?
saying, um, being a Leo is fine. You just want to be the best Leo you can be. You know, you can be gregarious, you can be outgoing, you can be flamboyant, you can be fixed. Your personality can crystallize. You can get stuck in the righteousness of your views. But it's being a Leo that's open, a Leo that's adaptable, a Leo that's objective, a Leo that can take comments and not perceive it as criticisms. You don't have to change, you just have to be open.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And you know what's interesting? People in the comments section is talking about hot Atlanta. One person, Fox and Netra, says it's 102 degrees in Sacramento, California.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of degrees it is. I know I could not walk the streets of Harlem with these concrete streets without sweating. And and I was walking slow. But it's one of those things. Well, let me ask you this, since we talk about retrogrades, what planets specifically are retrograde now? Because I think by this time into August, there will probably be no less than 5 planets, and we're not even talking about Mercury retrograde.
And see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're talking about the heat. We're looking every year, we're having more fires across the country because it's drought driven. You know, we are spoiled, you know, especially those who came up in the 60s and 70s, you know, and we're mad at government, we're screaming at government, we're hyper vigilant about what they should be doing when really, as I said, this is our opportunity to help define and shape our world. Instead of talking about, well, and you see, they haven't done anything about climate change as we turn into roast 'em, toast 'em. We need to have these things as a part of our lives. We need to educate ourselves about what is it going to take to for the United States to rejoin the climate change summit. What can we do to slow this process down? They have shown that in certain areas of the Antarctic, there are glaciers that weren't supposed to melt for 20 more years have already broken off, and that they can predict that within 10 or 12 years, that is going to make that sea level rise, and it's going to cause a tsunami in certain areas of the world. You know, we have a lot to say because there's so much information on the internet and social media, but it's made us sedentary instead of becoming proactive, you know? So, this whole thing of getting up, getting out, getting involved, paying attention, voting, taking the opportunity to get involved in a way where we're responding to this personally and sharing this information with our friends and our children and our neighbors. That's what's going to make the difference. Or else we're just going to be laying back, crying and complaining about how bad it is. And that's the impact of the retrograde because it's to make us take inventory and say, well, okay, what can
Now I know about the impact, but which planets specifically? And aren't some of them generational planets that are retrograde, like Neptune and things of that nature?
do you have your ephemeris pulled up because the book
No,
I'm
I don't.
okay.
No.
All right. Well,
Mm-mm.
I have my the ephemeris I have right now stops at 2000. So I can take a call or read someone and get the one that goes to 22 and I can tell you precisely, but I know that Saturn is going retrograde, you know. Of
Okay.
course it's
Let me see this. I'm going to give you this birthday, and I'm going to go to my moon book because I think they're listing planets that are going to be retrograde. But in the meantime, though, I'm going to shift to this young lady here, Annie. She says her birthday is April 18th, a fire sign with a fire number. She was born early in the morning. And what say you about her? And I'm going to step away a second to get that moon book.
Okay. Well, the fact that you're an Aries and you're a fire number, you means that you have a lot of hustle and drive, and this year has been somewhat stifling for you. It's not that you're not doing what you want to do, but it's not at the pace that you would have liked or you wanted. You know, respect this cycle. And don't carry or deal with anything that's slowing you down, because that's the main thing. It's that you're trying to get what you need done, but you're trying to work with energy that either is not working with you, they're not working at the pace as you, or they want you to do it a different way when your gut is telling you something else. Now, if that's a partner, that doesn't mean that you cancel their subscription, but there are times in your life where you have to work around and through. And don't turn around and be aggressive towards them, because that's the way they're wired. You're wired differently. Find creative and constructive ways to do what you need to do in the best interest of your own self care, so that you're not bogged with the resentment of trying to move forward, but feeling like you're being weighed down and blocked by others. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm hoping it does to her, but I've got some answers for you. One of them, first of all, Pluto went retrograde on April 29th and will remain retrograde until October the 8th. Saturn went retrograde on June the 4th and will stay that way until October 22nd. Neptune will go retrograde next week on the 28th and will stay that way to December the 3rd. Jupiter will go, no, in fact, Jupiter went retrograde on last month, June 28th, not this 28th, but this July 28th next week, Jupiter will go retrograde and Uranus will go retrograde in August. So by mid-August, there's going to be Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter all retrograde at the same time.
Well, I
That's
mean,
crazy.
no, it's not. It's just a part of the cycle of life. Let's take them one by one. Okay. You said Saturn is retrograde. What sign?
Saturn will be retrograde. It didn't say what sign it is in, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Hold on. Let me see. Mm,
I think it's Taurus.
oh, well, in this case, Saturn will, yeah, Saturn was retrograde in Gemini. It
Okay.
became retrograde in Gemini on June the 4th.
Saturn retrograde in Gemini means, especially for Geminis and Sagittarius, don't think that you can talk your way into and out of things like you normally do. All the stuff, you're going to be held accountable. Uh, it also means to pay attention. So if you're the type of person that, you're used to driving a little fast or cutting corners, this is the cycle to slow down, because accidents are likely, you know, um, falling, hurting yourself physically from not paying attention where you were going, not slowing down, and not taking your time. There's certain cycles for things, you know what I mean? It's just like, if you see the road is free and clear, you can speed up. If it's crowded and congested, you slow down. Well, when a retrograde planet, like Saturn, is in the sign of Gemini, which is action and freedom of movement, goes retrograde, that means slow down.
That
You,
makes sense. What about Pluto? Now, Pluto went retrograde in Taurus on April 29th. And that's a generational planet, right?
I've been looking forward to that now.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you've got to not look at these aspects or, oh, that's really uh, direct. That's supposed to be good. When certain planets are in your sign, that's supposed to be really good. And it is more fortunate. Okay. But Pluto is really, really, really retrograde, completely about changing the way that we live. So everybody who's been waiting for things to go back to normal prior to COVID, that's what we should have been doing these last 2 years is allowing ourselves to say, what new level of normalcy can I achieve? What areas of my life that I've been meaning to do, but I was so distracted with my fast paced life and my job and my this and my that. Because the one thing that we have more of now than we've ever had before as a result of the pandemic is time. So it's like I heard a young Levan Zant say, what are you doing with your time? So that if things continue to change as drastically as they have and they are, would you be doing as an individual or as a family to be prepared? Because this is not it's just the first time in our lives that we've had to contend with this. But other generations have had drastic, catastrophic changes that made them change and comport their way of life, whether it was a war, whether it was a famine, whether it was a plague, whether it was a disease. We're just getting our turn. Our
That
problem
makes sense. That makes sense.
is that we're mad, we're taking it personal, and y'all better hurry and get this fixed,
Yeah,
get back to my life. But
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a little bit of God in all of us. I really believe that, at least the God spirit, but we ain't God and we ain't running nothing. And if we are not willing to adapt and to change and say, well, okay, while I'm not as active, what do I need to change? How can I be healthier? How can I be cleaner? What am I holding on to that's no longer serving? What do I need to let go of? Because my income is not the same, if I ended up having to live here longer than I wanted to, instead of moving on to something else, what can I do to make my space more habitable? Uh, do I need to get rid of stuff? Do I need to get smaller stuff? All of that's up for review, but we're trying to ignore it and just say, just give me my old life back. Just
And
give
it's
me
not that simple. That's what you're saying. It's
what
not just like
what I'm saying is it's not about an old life, it's about a new paradigm. That's the cycle we're
now Neptune went into Cancer last month on the 28th. So what does Neptune in retrograde mean? And then there are two more planets and then we'll move on. So what does Neptune mean then
Neptune
in
is
Cancer?
Neptune is the planet of dreams, intuition, heightened psychic ability, heightened feelings, emotional overreaction. Neptune governs music, movies, because you can go to a movie or watch a film and get angry and be moved to tears, and it's not really happening in real life. Neptune is the illusionist. Now, with a retrograde, that means because it also deals with your strong attachment to sensation, people with
Oh,
addiction
okay.
are going to come up front for review. You're either going to feel sorry for yourself, stifled and stymied, and use that as an excuse to drink or drug more, or perhaps maybe even get addicted to medical medications that you're being prescribed. Or you can realize that this situation is creeping up on you and become more determined and more resolute. One of the things about the COVID is that people are finding out that one of the long-term consequences in some instances is this fog that they have. You know, that's a typical Neptunian influence where they had it, they managed to get through it, but now they have brain fog. Now they're slower at computing and responding and remembering. You know what I mean? So you have to work harder and get involved with games or applications that are going to help you stay sharp. This is a time to eat the kind of foods that will help strengthen your brain. You might not get back everything that you lost, but the worst thing you can do while Mercury retrograde is to go into a depression and drink more and drug more, because it's going to make the overall condition worse.
Okay, I do have one. Before we get to the last two that are retrograde, this person wanted to know that if they're doing minis, they would like one. And they said their information is April the 20th, 76, born at 10:02 a.m. in Brooklyn.
This person is very, very gifted and very intuitive. The only thing you really have to consider is what you know versus what you hope. Because Aries is a very optimistic sign, you know, but by her being a two, she's also very intuitive. She needs to work on marrying that energy. Be optimistic for what feels right, for what works, and for what can work. Wasting your energy on what we call can't win situations because you hope. And based on what you contribute, the least that person can do is give you a certain amount back. This is not the time for that.
Okay, I have a question.
Hmm.
Uh, to me, my sense is this person is a Taurus, April 20th, and yet you say Aries. So this is a borderline because you're born on the 20th of the
Yeah,
month.
she's a cusp born. Um, she is right at that, and I would have to look her up, but she's probably like 29 degrees.
Because if she's born at 10:02 a.m., her sun would be somewhere in the 11th house, the house of Aquarius, I think.
Right. Oh wow. Right. But that's what Lloyd, I am just so impressed. You know what I mean? It's like over the years we've learned and we've shared information.
Yeah.
Doing this on the regular and interacting with other people, you know, sometimes
Hmm.
where I knew the most, you're like, blah 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 blah, and it's like, well, go Lloyd. You know what I mean? So,
Well, listen, we've been working together since the 80s, okay? So we have, as ladies like to say, a history. All righty.
that's the difference in me doing an abbreviated reading. If I sat down and looked everything up, you know what I mean? But if her, as you were talking about her son, that means that she has to be careful with her friendships, you know?
Okay.
Not
Okay.
anything wrong with making friends, but just make sure that if they don't have as much to offer as you do, that you give according to what you get so that you don't end up at a deficit.
Okay, okay. So that's how that goes. Let me ask you this too before we get to those last two planets that are retrograde. One is coming up in August 19th, Uranus. So Uranus will be retrograde in Leo. And then we have Jupiter that will be retrograde next week on the 28th. But before we get to there, I had a guest on, this very amazing guest last week. His name was Dennis Sumlin,
So,
and he did something that, I mean, I've had astrologers on, but he put emphasis on the decants. That's one of your specialties too. So can you explain to people that, okay, I am an Aquarius, but my decant is in Libra. So can you explain what that means and how people can be affected?
well, now what I'd like to share so that it could kind of be demystified and it doesn't seem like we're coming up with new stuff every day is in astrology, you are the sign that you're born. But if you're born within the first 10 degrees or the first 10 days, you would be an Aquarius with the first uh, decant. And the first decant of the air signs is Gemini.
Yes.
Second 10 days is Libra. And the
Mm-hmm.
last 10 days would be Aquarius. So that means that you are an Aquarius, but you've got Libra like tendencies. And I can see them now that you pointed it out because everybody loves you and you're so friendly and it's not fake. You know, Libra is the king of it's nice to be nice. Even when they get mad, they are uncomfortable when people push them to a point where they really get mad and have to blow up because they like being nice. You're an Aquarius with that Libra decant, so that better explains your outward personality. I am an Aquarius in a Gemini decant because I was born within the first 10 days of that sign. So what happens is when an astrologer reads you, they take that into account, but in the effort not to confuse you, we just do the interpretation knowing that that part is at play. Did that make sense?
Makes sense to me. I like how you're doing it. So, in other words, each sign there's a 30 degrees, but the first 10 degrees represents the first part. So in other words, mine is it is Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Because if you notice, those decants are all in the same element of the sign that the person is born in. So if a
First,
person
yeah,
is a
first,
Taurus,
right.
their first one would be actually in Taurus itself, then Virgo, the second degree of it, and then Capricorn, the third degree, the last 10 days of it. Wouldn't that be correct? The
I'll,
last 30 degrees?
I'll give an example. I have ice when I was so
You break you so for some reason the sound is going in and out, but you're fine. Go ahead.
yeah, I have Pisces on my seventh house, and your seventh house is your house of partnership. So all my life, I would always attract Pisces. You know, it wouldn't necessarily be a relationship, but there was just always a natural affinity. They would always extend themselves. They would always, and it got to the point where if a person was overly solicitous towards me or very helpful, I'd say, wait a minute, are you Pisces? And they'd say, how'd you know? You know, relationship with the Pisces. But there was something about this Pisces that was different. There was something about this Pisces that was a little darker, that was a little more resilient, more stubborn. And even as an astrologer, you don't sit there and like try to calculate everything about them, you know? And the relationship didn't last that long. And then after it was over, I said, let me go back and look at their chart. They were a Pisces, but their sun was in a Scorpio decant. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of our viewers, Aura Caltita, has been on. She pulled out her ephemeris for 2022, and she says the north nodes, and one of your specialties are the nodes, the north and south nodes. And she said the north nodes will be in retrograde too. What does that mean when the nodes are in retrograde?
No, trying to find a quick, easy way to explain. I thought I knew a lot about astrology, and I must have had studied astrology for about 18 years before I actually started studying what a node meant, a north node and a south node. And the north node is who you've come to be in this life, what the vibe is on you, what the assignment is, what the karma is. The South Node is like the life you've lived in past lives. Now, when you do the person's chart, if they have more planets in the sign of their South Node, they're still trying to be that old person because it's a pattern and a behavior that's familiar to them, whether it's working for them or not.
Uh-huh.
They
Got
have
it.
more planets that fall in the sign of the North Node. It is easier for them to make that ascension and get over past patterns, behaviors, etc., and really move into the who of who they've come to be in this life. Now, with a retrograde, it slows up the process. It means that they spend more time acting out old patterns and old behaviors because it's familiar to them.
Okay. Good. 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 I'm glad you mentioned that. Now
But
let's go ahead.
did it make sense?
It made sense to me. It made sense to me. We got two more planets that are retrograde. One is coming up on the 28th, 8 days from now. Jupiter will be retrograde in Leo. What does that mean, dear? Until November the 23rd.
For people who were born under the sign of Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius, if they have been spending with the free or open hand, or they were trying to be moderate, but it seems like the money. I remember one time Amiri Baraka said, "I love money. I just don't understand why it run from me like it do." You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
been going through that
Mm-hmm.
retrograde. uh, what you really should have done, what you're supposed to do, that whole getting by, getting over, getting through needs to come to a complete halt. And you have to act as if this is all the money that I really am going to have, what's the most important thing? You got to prioritize when Jupiter is retrograde because it can yoke your money up and it can yoke the good fortune that's been coming your way and turn things into a day's work for a day's pay cycle. And again, people have a tendency to take it personal and feel like it's just bad luck and it's just hard times. But there are times when we need to hunker down. There are times when we need to be more disciplined. There's times when we need to prioritize. A retrograde Jupiter is one of those cycles. Some
Okay.
will
Oh,
be than others.
no, that makes sense. I have there's a curious question I have. This Rick Hill, he has a couple. He said he is born on September the 30th, 57. His wife is born March the 9th, 65. Are we soulmates? We seem to have the same personal year every year, which is actually correct. Although they are different signs, one is a Libra, the other is a Pisces. Their numbers are for example, and I'll just leave with this. His numbers, Rick's numbers are the 3, 6, and 9. Her numbers are the 9, 3, and 6. So that means they've got the same numbers, but in a different order. However, 3 rules Thursday, which are both their days, 6 rules Friday, which is both their days, and 9 rules Tuesday, which is both their days. Both this couple have 6 months that they share, both March, April, May, October, November, December, which means to me, Khalea, that they either met, married, engaged, had a child, whatever the case is, starting anywhere from late February into March, April, or May, or late September into October, November, December, as this is it. So now, what say you from an astrological perspective? And yes, they're in the same personal year at the same time. So they're both in a 9 personal year this year, which means they have to bring things to a close or a conclusion.
Well, the interesting thing to me is that certain signs are supposed to be more compatible with one another than others.
Sure.
But Aries and Libra are both signs that deeply, deeply value relationships. They value love and they value the thought of we're in it for the long haul. So even though there are some challenges there and some major differences, both of them are signs that will go a long way to work around and work with and work through and try to be as loving as possible throughout. And that's really the strength and the sanctity of what their relationship is built on.
But isn't that what that's why they would say for better or worse, for sickness and health, for richer or poorer? That's at least that used to be the old adage
But
going
the
into relationship.
are not wired for that. I mean, everybody who enters a union, they moved into the union with their eye towards that. But they could be wired so differently that over time, as they mature, as they evolve, as their ideologies, philosophies, and their work ethics change, they start to realize, yes, I did want it to last forever, but we're not on the same page. I don't feel the same way. We don't like the same thing. And then sometimes time and circumstances intervene to make the relationship implode. It could be an extramarital affair, it could be other interests, it could be the person stops repressing themselves and tries to demand that they change. But that's just the external thing that makes it break up. Okay.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
But then there are other combinations, sort of like these two, that unless something outside catastrophic, like something were to happen to one of them, because they have so many things that make them want this to work, that's what they're committed to.
Well, they got the same numbers, the same days, the same dates, the same months, and the same personal year. Rarely do I see that in
Right.
couples, numerically speaking.
Going for them in terms of helping the relationships stay cemented, if you will.
Good. Listen, I've got one or two more questions, and I didn't know, I'm so busy into this. I didn't realize how close to 8. On August the 19th, next month, Uranus goes retrograde until January of 2023 in the sign of Leo. That's a generational planet. So Uranus, what does that mean coming up next month on the 19th? And that'll be the last one.
We've had to swallow a lot. When I swallow, I mean, we had a president that was impeached twice, nothing happened. We had the insurrection, nothing.
Yeah.
Uranus is that time where it's going to be major shocks and a real serious blow for people who've been getting away with things they weren't entitled.
Uh-oh.
But
Somebody gonna get it.
But yeah, and there's going to be a couple of somebodies. Okay.
I think so too. I agree.
And unfortunately, it represents a sudden death too. Now that could just be what's going on with the Ukraine, but in terms of notable, prominent figures leaving here, it's that cycle where it's going to be a big shock because it's going to happen like, oh my God, and it's like, well, why would you be surprised? Everybody else, is leaving here. But it's like, but they cause so much havoc and
Yeah, and Uranus always deals with the odd and unusual, sudden and unexpected. So that makes all the sense. And Leo rules prominence and eminence and people of regal status and things of that nature. So that is very good. Listen, one of the things you put is you said, what are our assignments for this cycle? What do you mean, dear?
Well, actually, fortunately, I've been discussing them throughout the program. That's the changes that we need. Respecting what time it is, respecting that we can't just go back to life as it was, but making the most of the life that we have, improving the life that we have, complaining less, doing more, being more conscious, being more responsible, being accountable. Those are the things that and taking advantage of the opportunity to pivot. I've been doing astrology for over 40 years.
I know.
But it's not all of who I am. I have 5 planets in my 5th house, which is my house of creativity. So during this pandemic, I've been designing more, I've been creating more. It's what's helped me keep my sanity. It's given me an avenue. I'm blown away.
Your sound was breaking up a minute. You said you were designing more. Can you repeat it? You were designing more and whatever else you were doing?
I'm creating things more. It's helped me keep my sanity. It's been a distraction. But by the same token, I'm so humbled and appreciative of people's response to me. I might not have hunkered down and gone in that direction just from a therapeutic perspective if I had not had time. See, people are kind of stuck because they've been doing the same thing for such a long time that they feel like they've lost their identity, you know. But look around your life, look at your other talents, even if it's just taking better care of your body, cleaning up your house, getting more involved in politics, voting, volunteering. You know, don't think, well, that was good for when I was young. We need all of us to make changes that we want to occur.
As they say, all hands on deck. But the
All
last
hands.
question you posed was power to pivot. What do you mean, the power to pivot?
That's exactly what I mean. The power to pivot means to change, to be willing to change, to be willing to adapt, to be open, to not be stuck in the righteousness of our views, to let ourselves be educated and informed by the cycles, by learning more technology, by sharing information with our children, by reclaiming our families and not allowing ourselves to be so segregated where they're in the room doing one thing, to reclaiming ourselves as family, to strengthen our family, protecting our family, spending time with our family. It can be something simple, but the opportunities are right there. We just need to make that shift.
Very good. And in fact, of talking about sharing, as you see at the bottom of your screen, is my very special guest, Khalea. It's amazing how fast this time is going by. And I ain't even get to some of my questions. I want to focus on the questions you had posed for topic discussions. But Khalea Washington, she's an Astro-Empowerment specialist and one of the best of 40 years plus doing astrology, a lecturer. She's the best. And let me tell you this. She goes deep when she does readings. That's why we didn't do a lot of birthdays. She doesn't just gloss over things. She gets into the weeds, but then again, she's a number two. They're very detailed. But her contact number is 973-951-5846. And her email is kaleacollection@gmail.com. And her PayPal is her phone number, 973-951-5846. And everybody knows how I feel about the Cash Apps or the PayPals because Khalea and I stepped out here on faith many moons ago, right there. Okay. And it hasn't been easy.
But you know, Lloyd, I have to say, you have made me very proud to do what I do. I always ask that in what I'm doing that I can be a blessing to others. That's my primary focus. And I'm so proud that you stayed the course and that you're here in this 21st century still taking advantage of the opportunity to share information and enlighten others, because we're in a cycle where people are hungry for it now. You know, when
Yeah.
started out, people were looking at us kind of dubious, like we were ripoffs and things like that. Where there's a whole generation of people that are hungry and knowledgeable and appreciative. So I'm glad that we're still here, and I'm
But
especially
this is what we do. And you do yours well, superbly well. And in fact, you are the guest I've had on more than any other guest. I ain't going to front, but we got a relationship like that. And then I have another guest coming on Monday that I think will probably tie the record with you too. But that is because we have a very long history of doing this and being consistent. And I got to be honest, you are absolutely one of the best, the best, the best, Khalea. And I thank you for that too. So please, at the bottom of the screen is how you get in touch with her. Please support her PayPal. Please support her. And by the way, you see it's a collections because we were out in Newark this past weekend at the Source of Knowledge. Remember, you want to mention that?
yes.
And so just me mention that briefly because I didn't want to, go ahead.
Well, we were at the Source of Knowledge, and they had a beautiful read and feed where they blocked off the whole street on Treat Place, and they had books giveaways and entertainment. And Lloyd did readings, and I took advantage of the opportunity to sell my clothes, art, and jewelry. And we'll be there again in August, or you can call me and we can set up an appointment to do a one-on-one. We can meet individually or by phone, but it's always a pleasure. It's not complicated and it's a lot of fun. I'm not the bad news astrologer, but I know how to give you the information in a way that you can use it to your advantage and not feel weighed down by it.
Well, I can tell you, and I can attest when I've gone to her for reading, there was a situation I was in, and if she didn't read that to a T, I don't know who would have. Okay. So I'm telling you, that's the proof is in the pudding. And I know from first hands-on experience about this fantastic human lady right here, this human being. So anyway, hang on one second, Khalea. I just want to announce who is going to be on next week. Next week is going to be very interesting. I got a couple of things just to say right quick. And one of them is on Monday, I'm going to have a guest on that I've been knowing since 1978, Brother Revels Bay. He's come out with another book. I'm going to have him on Monday, the 25th. He's a 7, and that makes sense. He's born on the 16th of the month of March. All righty, under the sign of Pisces that is ruled by Jupiter. And what's amazing is on Wednesday, the 27th, I'm going to have Hank Rising Sun, who was born on the 25th, a 7, and he is under the sign of Sagittarius. But the point is, Sagittarius and Pisces original rulership is Jupiter. So it's going to definitely be a Jupiter week. These are great brothers. Brother Rebels Bay will be on Monday. Hank Rising Sun will be on Wednesday, and I can't wait to have him on. By the way, please sign up for my free monthly newsletter. It is the month of July, although we're about a little halfway there. Please sign up. It's absolutely free. Go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com, or my co-writer with this, Kaya French, kayafrench.com, and get your free monthly newsletter. By the way, I'm going to tell you that my numerology courses are on sale. I think it ends either today or tomorrow. So to sign up, go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. That's L for the newbies. That's LLOYD Strayhorn, STRAYHORN. Sign up for all 3 courses. You'll see that you can get them cheaply, not unless you want to wait till the sale is over and spend close to $300. And I don't see why y'all got to do that when y'all can get this right now. And in fact, when you do take the course, this is the certification you will get doing that. And I want to let you know that tomorrow at 7, I will be doing Clubhouse at 7. It's Learn from Lloyd with Numerology. So tune in tomorrow at 7 to find out we're doing Planes of Expressions. This is the certificate you get when you take the courses. These are the courses that are on sale. Please, you want to save some money, especially with inflation too. There's no excuse not to jump on this and sign up for all 3 of the courses. And don't forget, sign up for the newsletter. It's absolutely free. And no, we will not sell your mailing list. No, don't play that. So anyway, got that out the way. And so, Khalea, any last parting words, dear? Whoops. Here we go.
So much for having me. But I also want to share how much I enjoy the show, because it is so great in 2022 to see the guests that you have. We can all learn from each other. There's such a wealth of diversity, and it's our own pool. You're not discriminatory and don't have people of other nationalities, but you also highlight what we have to offer as a people, whether it's astrology, numerology, meditation, spirituality, and it's so sorely needed and it's deeply appreciated.
And we are the best of the best, which is the reason why, my dear. And I thank you. Khalea, I want you to have a blessed day. I hope you get a ton of calls. You got to see her collections. Her collection of clothing is just out of this world. She's the collection thing she got into within the last, I guess, 10 or 15 years. But if you want one of the most best astrology readings you can get your hands on from a pro that's been doing this for over 40 years, this is the lady right here that does it, Khalea Washington. Khalea, love you much, hon. Thank you so much as always. I do appreciate that. And for everybody, I want to thank you very much for sharing, subscribing, hit the notification button, all those things they say, whatever that means. And it's growing. And some of you have made contributions like the Smith family or whatever. They do something. But anyway, I'm going to pull out all the lists of people who have made something. And I do want to thank you all very, very much. So don't forget, tune in Monday with my very special guest, Brother Rebels Bay. Then on Wednesday, Hank Rising Sun. It's in this neck piece that I wear every day, this bliss thing on the show. The person who made that will be on next Wednesday. So you can ask them how you can get yours and whatnot. And I can't go nowhere without people asking me about this piece. It's whatever it is, it's just extraordinary. But so is Hank Rising Sun and all of my other guests. So everybody, I want to thank you very, very much. You'll have a very nice weekend. I was going to say, and please stay cool as best you can with all this heat. All righty. See you then.